Well, now that is a very small drop in a very, very large bucket of drugs.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video, I'll be reviewing Fallout. This can be a non-spoiler review. If you do want a spoiler review, I might drop one in next week if you guys do want that. But yeah, Fallout came out a couple days ago on Prime Video. All 8 episodes are able to binge right now. Before we get started, though, make sure you leave a like. Helps out a lot. I'm going to read you guys a quick plot synopsis just so you know what the show is about. In a future post-apocalyptic Los Angeles brought about by nuclear decimation, citizens must live in underground bunkers to protect themselves from radiation, mutants, and bandits. That's a quick plot description of this show, and I don't want to give too much away because there's a lot of surprises in here that I was blown away by. But my expectations going into this, because I wasn't really expecting a lot, because I honestly didn't know what to expect. So as I said, I wasn't expecting a lot because I wasn't really moved that much by the trailers, and I said, maybe I'll check it out someday. I'm not really going to be first in line and watch on the first day it gets released because the trailer didn't do too much for me story-wise. But then the first reviews started to come out like a week or two before the show dropped, and they were almost all positive reviews, which shocked me simply because this is based off a video game. It's a video game adaptation. Video game adaptations have been having a really hard time these past like 5-10 years getting good reviews. A lot of them just suck. It's easy for them to suck and it's hard for them to be good. But we've also had a lot of good ones recently. The Sonic ones are pretty beloved, and you have The Last of Us. So I was actually kind of surprised that this one was also getting great reviews because a lot of people were worried, and as I said, the trailer wasn't that great. And so after I saw all the great reviews, I decided, I was like, I'll just watch it. I'll watch it the day it comes out, and I'm very glad I did because I binged it in 2 days. Like I said, it's a really amazing show, and I think it's the second best show of the year, just behind Shogun. But wow, I was blown away by this show. If you haven't started watching it, start watching it. It's so good. 8 episodes, they're almost all an hour long, and I really did love this a lot. And I went into it with almost no knowledge of what Fallout was and the story of the video games, because the only Fallout game I ever played was the mobile game Fallout Shelter, which is actually really fun. When you have nothing to do, just go on that game, make a whole shelter for all your Fallout people in there, and all the people that live in there. You gotta feed them, you gotta give them water, electricity. It's actually really fun. I always played it during school just to keep me occupied. So you honestly don't have to have any knowledge of the Fallout games to watch this show. It's like me, I didn't really have any knowledge. The Fallout Shelter game doesn't really give you any knowledge. It's kind of it's a little bit of an original idea in this show, but also it takes a lot from the game, which I've heard the game. I heard that fans of the game are actually pretty happy with it, so you don't need a lot of knowledge to go into it. Just start watching it. If you haven't done it, start watching it right now. It's so good. And Jonathan Nolan, who you guys might know from making Westworld, and of course for being Christopher Nolan's brother, writing for some of his movies and all that, he's one of the main creators of this show, and he directed 3 episodes, and he's also one of the executive producers of the show. I've been watching some interviews where he talks about it. He has a lot of love for this. He has a lot of love for Westworld, and I think he did some fantastic work here. He does get outshined by his brother because Christopher Nolan does a lot more stuff, directs a lot more stuff, wins Oscars and all that just for Oppenheimer. But I think Jonathan Nolan does a lot of cool stuff behind the scenes with producing, directing, and writing that he's very underrated for. Not a lot of people give him credit, so I just want to credit him right here because I thought he did a great job with this. And I thought that his first episodes were easily some of the strongest episodes direction-wise, so I want to give him big congrats on that. And this was, as I said, released as a binge release, which is, if you don't know what the difference, binge release, all episodes released on the same day compared to a weekly release, compared to like Shogun, 1 episode a week. And as much as I love to binge the show, and as much as I love to watch it in 2 days because I couldn't wait to see what happens on the next episode, I think a weekly release would have been much better for this show, and I think it would have worked out much better because then we'd be talking about this show for almost 2 months because it's 8 episodes. They probably would have released 2 episodes at once, so we would have been talking about it for 7 weeks almost. And, I think that's a little bit better because I feel like a lot of people aren't going to talk about this when we get into like May or something like that. So it sucks that it's a binge release, but honestly, I still had a great time binging it. I know a lot of people love binging more than weekly releases. I used to love binge releases, but I'm starting to really love weekly releases because just watching Shogun every week has filled with so much joy. X-Men 97, I just love anticipating what's going to happen next, just rewatching the past episodes to catch all the detail and all that. But I still did love binging this show. I think it's a lot of fun to binge all 8 episodes at once. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the production value of this show because not a lot of people have been talking about it, and I think production is a big a big point to talk about in movies and television. And the budget for this whole show was around 155 million. That's what I saw online, which comes to around 20 million per episode, which you're probably saying, oh, that's a lot of money. Why'd they spend so much on this? But for now, right now, it's actually fairly common for the shows that have budgets like that. Stranger Things, House of the Dragon, One Piece, Game of Thrones all had like 15 to 25 million to 30 million dollar budget per episodes, but those have been going on for a couple times. But this show does need a huge budget for whatever's going on. Everything in the vaults, everything on the surface. I know it has a lot going on in here, and I thought the budget was used really well, especially for the costumes, different production designs. It actually looked like they cared enough to make some really big and detailed sets that I was very impressed with. They have some awesome props like the infamous Pip-Boy, the little thing they wear on the wrist, and they had the guns were really cool in here, and the huge power armor, which all the Fallout fans know, but the power armor is like the huge, I don't know how tall it was, like 8 feet tall kind of armor that people get into. It was actually a real suit, and it was controlled by many actors at once, and it's probably pretty heavy, probably like 60 to 80 pounds. I'm so jealous of the actors that get to wear that because the experience must have been insane. Like, just the production design on that was really awesome. And I also thought that the show was shot really well. Some great cinematography here. I love how everything was lit, especially inside the vaults and on the surface. Some very great lighting in the show. One specific shot in the first episode where you see the bomb being dropped was an instant favorite for me. They get you right into that. Just the bombs dropped in the first episode, then you get to see all the fallout go after it. It's so cool. And also the score. The score was really well done. There's some very memorable themes in this one, so props to whoever did the score because I really did like it. I'll probably go back to that score a little bit. And there are going to be comparisons to The Last of Us show in this because, I mean, it is kind of warranted. I understand and see the similarities between both of them because they both kind of focus on a post-apocalyptic world, but let's be honest, they're also very different. But they both have different things going on in them. But the question is, which live action show did I enjoy more? And honestly, it's a surprise to say, but I enjoyed Fallout more. I think Fallout is a clear winner in my eyes. It's kind of close, but I really did enjoy Fallout more. I think it's a lot more fun, which is kind of the point of the show. And Last of Us isn't supposed to be fun because they're different in so many ways, but they're both like post-apocalyptic shows. I do want to compare them just a little bit. And I will say, as I said, there's loads of surprises in this show that I wasn't expecting. Sometimes I was like, what the hell just happened? I was like, this is insane. It's going pretty extreme. So try to stay out of those spoilers. Go in kind of just non-spoiler. You'll have such a great time. And this is a TV mature show because it gets gory and it gets brutal. I was not expecting it to be as gory and bloody as it was. Let's just say that people get shot in slow motion with blood and guts flying everywhere. Some people get their heads crushed by the power armor suits. And I love how they use the mature rating to make the show like even more crazy and make it even more cartoonish. I thought it helped it out even more because it is a pretty cartoonish show. Some moments it gets pretty serious, gets pretty emotional, but for the most part it's pretty cartoonish, pretty fun. And the characters are having fun. I think the actors said they're having loads of fun on the set. And I was not expecting it to be that cartoonish, kind of like the gore and guts kind of thing. But I think it works out really well for this show. And I'm going to talk about the cast, but I'm also going to talk about the storyline and kind of the characters at the same time right here. The story of this Fallout show and what they really went for really impressed me because what they did was they made 3 separate character storylines with these characters eventually coming together in the end. These storylines eventually crossing, which I love when shows do that because there's always something major happening that you have to focus on, and you're always wondering what's going to happen to this character, what's going to happen to that character when you're with another character. Keeps you entertained, especially when there's more going on in this huge world with multiple different characters. I really did like that a lot. First character that we're going to talk about is Lucy, which is the Vault Dweller in the show, played by the amazing Ella Purnell, who I absolutely love in Arcane. I think she's fantastic. She voices Jinx in Arcane, and I can't wait to see her work in season 2. She said it gets really emotional. Arcane season 2 coming out this November. I know we're talking about Fallout, but if you haven't seen Arcane, watch that before November. It's gonna get insane. But yeah, back to Fallout. She's really nice and good. She's like a goody two shoes kind of character in this that has never been to the surface. And I feel like she, at the start of the show, she starts off really clean, but once she goes to the surface, her world gets turned, upside down. She has a lot of character growth that I really did love. love. And I think Ella did a great job because she sells how nice and adorable her character really is. But when she has to give that very, emotional turn, some very emotional scenes, I thought she really did nail that too. So I really did love Ella in this show as Lucy. I thought Lucy was such a great character that anyone could get along with, because you're going to the surface for the first time and you're kind of like her. You're kind of experiencing everything for the first time, looking around at everything. You're like, what's going on? Some horrifying things, but I think that she gave a great performance. And then you had Maximus, who was played by Aaron Moten, who was in Emancipation and Father Stu. But this is actually the first role that I've ever seen him in, because I remember watching Father Stu, but I don't actually remember him being in that. Emancipation, I never watched that. I really didn't care to watch that. And Maximus is part of the Brotherhood, so he's the character who gets to wear the power armor, which I said, it's so sick. I was like, this power armor is so cool. I was blown away by the production design around them. I also felt bad for Maximus because I swear in every single episode, he just got the shit beat out of him in every episode. But what I really did like about his character is that he didn't give up. He kept getting up, kept on fighting for what's right, and I really did love that about him. And you got Maximus and Lucy. Their kind of relationship in here is something that I really did love. It was built between Max and Lucy because they started as, complete strangers that can't trust each other. They become friends, and then they build kind of a interesting romance, which I really thought suited them well. Then the last main character that we'll talk about is Cooper / the Ghoul, who is played by the legendary Walton Goggins. We all know Goggins. He's very famous and leaves a big impression on whatever he shows up in. He was just an Invincible. He does great in that, but wow, he performs like differently in here. He's so great in here. He leaves a huge impact. I was blown away by his menacing and badass cowboy that he played. And every time he got in a gunfight, you knew that he wasn't going to lose because he always had a trick up his sleeve. He was shooting everyone, just making guts fly every time. Anytime someone charged him, he was like, I got this. I'm not really scared. I know what I'm doing. And the Ghoul in this one has like that. He has like the nose is like not even a nose anymore. The ghouls are like been like radiation got to them and all that. They look crazy. So the Ghoul makeup and prosthetics done on him were seamless, and he really started to freak me out because I was like, bro, you're a little too close to the camera and you're scary. So I think you need to step back just a little bit. But yeah, every time he showed up, they played like I think it was like his theme in the score, and I loved his theme. I thought it was really cool. And I also wanted to mention Moses Arias, who is famous for playing Rico in Hannah Montana. We don't get to see him much anymore, but he is in this show in a pretty big role, and I thought he was really good. So I'm happy to see him again in a show that's pretty big. I was also really impressed with how Amazon Prime is doing their shows because every episode here felt like such a big event, with most of them being over an hour long. Some are just under an hour. But what a fun and scary ride this was at times. I just was, every time an episode ended, I was like shocked, but I'm like, oh, click the next episode. I want to continue watching. This is getting even more insane. I'm just here for it. I love when our characters are growing. So overall, Fallout, I really enjoyed this a lot. Renew it for season 2 right now. I want season 2 right now. What a fantastic show this was. What a huge surprise this show was. I really do love when a TV show can come out and just blow you away. You're like, I'm not expecting anything good, but then you come out of it after the finale, you're like, wow, this was just life-changing. I think it was life-changing for like science fiction action purposes, post-apocalyptic show purposes. It now has me really interested in playing the games. I've heard that Fallout 4 is pretty good, so I might pick that one up. But yeah, I really did love the performance in here, especially Walton Goggins, Ella Purnell, and I love the characters. I love the production design, such a well-realized budget with some great sets, great props. Every episode felt like an event, so I really did love it. So Fallout, I'm gonna give it a strong 9 out of 10. Yeah, it's easily the second best show of the year, as I said. But I want to know, what are you guys' thoughts on the Fallout TV show? If you have watched it, leave your thoughts down below. I'd love to discuss it with you. But if you did enjoy this review, make sure to leave a like. Helps a lot. Subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 700 subscribers. It's free to do so. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.